So today was the commital mention for Patrick Stephenson for the death of Samantha Murphy. Unfortunately, there was a last-minute switch of courtroom, so while I had myself all lined up to jump in via web link, I jumped into courtroom 1 and thought there's something odd going on here, and it was slower starting. But thankfully I jumped out, went back onto the page which I had thankfully kept open, which showed Stephenson's case, and noted that they had changed the courtroom from courtroom 1 to courtroom 4. So a bit of a swifty there, which probably cost a few people the opportunity to observe the case. I did note that Stephenson's mother was present in the courtroom, or at least present in digital form, and Stephenson appeared via web link looking quite healthy, quite unperturbed. Certainly doesn't seem to be affected by his stay in jail thus far. So while I did miss the first 5 minutes of proceedings, what I gather from where I came in was that the defence only received much of the disclosure on the 25th of July. So they've actually only had that for a brief period of time. I'm not sure why there was such a delay. However, basically, Patrick's lawyers have said, well, look, because of the small window of brief of service, we want to ask for an adjournment. And initially they asked for an adjournment till the 6th of November, and then realised that they were double booked on that date. So it is now adjourned to the 14th of November. So they will come back and do another committal mention. That one will be longer than today's session. They've put aside an hour for that. So there should be a fair bit of information coming out of that, and I will once again attend via video link. The judge was aware of the issues in terms of the delay in the time frame, and he specifically said that's a long time for your client and the community. It's a case that obviously needs to move promptly. So thankfully he was recognising that it is something that they don't want endless delays on, because we know how the courts can work here in Australia, and there could be one adjournment after the next. So I think he was, in a somewhat diplomatic way, saying you better make sure that you're organised and ready to proceed on that date, because he's not going to look too kindly on any further delays. So the judge acknowledged that with it being adjourned to November, that's now a 12-week or a 3-month delay in proceedings, and that is quite significant, particularly given that this is a rather significant case and obviously people want to see it move ahead. There was also discussion had with regards to the format of disclosure. So it seems that apparently the prosecution provided the defence team with what was required for disclosure, but in a format that for them was unopenable or unreadable. So the judge has made it clear that it is incumbent on the prosecution to provide the defence team with whatever necessary software they need to allow them to have access to all the files that were sent to them from the prosecution team, which I can only guess probably refers to perhaps specific software that is used by Vic Police, because I'd imagine most other software would be quite readily available and that the defence team would therefore be able to get it for themselves otherwise. So I'm thinking it must be some sort of system that is used by Vic Police that they need to specifically provide to the defence team. I found it somewhat encouraging that the judge mentioned that there was quite a significant brief. In other words, it appears that there is quite a lot held by the prosecution which will be used to hopefully convict Patrick Stephenson. So it sounds like they have quite a lot of information there and quite a lot of disclosure that they have passed on to the defence. Hence the reason that the defence team is saying that they need that 3 months for preparation. So while on one hand it is a little frustrating that we have to wait 3 months now, and it is just heartbreaking to think of the delays for Samantha's family, but at the same time, when you consider that the delays mean that there is a mountain of evidence against him, then that's a positive thing. Now, something kind of amusing that I did want to share. Quite early on, during this discussion of disclosure, there was a little bit of noise in the courtroom, and the judge was quite officious doing his role as a judge and made sure that he dressed down all those people who were attending via video link and pointed out that they needed to make sure that they muted their microphones and that they were not interfering with the proceedings in any way. Having given his very official-sounding speech, he then finished with, "Oh, I think it was me." Now, I will just mention for those of you who can hear that noise in the background and are not familiar with my channel, that's my dog snoring. It's kind of commonplace on all my videos if you are not already aware of that. Now, it was also recognised that there were discussions occurring between prosecution and defence with relation to disclosure, and that things were moving along quite well between them, and that they were basically organising that disclosure would be adequately done. So whatever issues that there were, such as the issues with software, were actually being dealt with. And I think that assurance was specifically meant to let the judge know that they were thankful for the 3-month adjournment and were not going to mess around, because having heard his speech about, well, that's 3 months, that's a long time, I think they were recognising that after that they were not going to get a very friendly reaction from the judge should they require any further adjournments. So I think we can be encouraged by that and know that there won't be an additional adjournment come November, because the judge has made it quite clear that he's not in favour of adjournments in cases like this, and it seems that the defence have made it quite clear that they are doing what they can to ensure that they will be prepared on that date. So on the 14th of November, we can expect that they will be having discussions with regards to disclosure. So any disclosure that hasn't been shared will be discussed on that date, and the judge may make orders with regards to that. And as I mentioned, there's quite a lot of disclosure there. So they actually refer to there being a huge amount of material. So I think that there is quite a strong case against Patrick Stephenson. The defence also sought an adjournment for the issues regarding to the traffic offences. So these are unrelated to Samantha's case. And I believe they were listed to be heard at 9:30, so I'm not sure if the courtroom started at 10 and I only missed 5 minutes, or if it started at 9:30 and they were dealing with his case from then, although it did say, even with the updated time, that it was a 10 a.m. start. But in terms of talking about the traffic charges, they have sought an adjournment for that to the 14th, which the prosecution did not object to. And what I found interesting was at the end of the proceedings, a journalist from The Age made a request for those records to be made public. In other words, the records relating to the traffic charges. And the defence basically said, look, no, because it hasn't even had mention yet. So we don't want that to be made public just yet until we've had a chance for discussion of it with Mr. Stephenson and until it goes up for mention. So the judge agreed with that. So at this point in time, there is no further information available in regards to the traffic charges. So we will have to wait till the 14th of November for more information with regards to that. The other thing they discussed was a custody management update. And it seems that there were previously some issues with regards to custody management for Patrick Stephenson. Now, they were not discussed during the time that I was listening, and I would imagine that they were something that were discussed in the background, because if it was something like moving him to a different jail because of the publicity of the case, then obviously it's not something that they do want to discuss openly in a courtroom. So it seems that there have been discussions regarding that occurring in the background leading up to today's hearing, and that there were some issues previously with regards to custody management. But the judge queried that today and was told that there are no further issues with regards to custody management for Patrick Stephenson. So he is still being remanded in custody until his subsequent court date on the 14th of November. And at that date, we will hear a lot more. They've set aside 45 minutes to an hour for that particular hearing. So there will probably be a lot more information that actually does come out on that date. In terms of the next committal mention, the judge made an order that Stephenson would appear once again via audio-visual link, only to have to appear in person should he be housed in a location where that was unavailable. So I find it interesting that he did say should he be housed in a location where that was unavailable. Does that mean that they are perhaps looking at moving him to a different location, or is that just a standard thing that is said by the judge normally? Thank you for listening. Please, if you're not already subscribed to my channel, hit the like button and leave your comments below.